So
Is
I'm
it blue
with
or
you on
black?
that. Mine's black.
All right.
It says it's blue on the front, but it's colored black. All right. With that, we are live on Twitch and everything should be ready to go. The levels look great. With that, we can go
Okay.
ahead and get started. Excellent. I see you as well. Loud, looking
Great.
good.
Thank
Community
you.
is piling in. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to a very special show. This is actually our third anniversary. We've been doing this for 3 straight years. It's an absolute honor to have the team from Personal AI coming to visit us. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Very, very well. Late dinner last night with one of the biggest asset managers in Los Angeles and
Oh,
got back here at 1 a.m. to San Diego. So, not too much shut eye, but this is an exciting event to be speaking at.
I'm a California native, but I'm living in Appalachia, so I had to follow my folks where the road took them. And I really appreciate talking to another California native, although obviously the state government out there has got some budgetary concerns they're working on, don't they?
Yeah.
All right.
They do.
Well, this is not a traditional AMA, but it's going to run a lot like my traditional AMAs. This project is a decentralized, orientated project in the AI space, offering an intense competition, in my humble opinion, to Bard, GPT, etc., which represent highly centralized, highly corporatized solutions to engaging with AI. And the conditions for giveaway are going to be thus feedback is what we're looking for here, folks. Constructive feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? If you see a problem, is there something you have an issue with or concerns? Anything like that, feel free to give it out. If you see opportunities for connecting the personal AI team with something you might know about as well that could solve problems for them, that's also something we're looking for. The most constructive feedback will be selected at the end of the stream. And with that said, I'm very happy to right away. I want to discuss the future of large language models in general when looking for today's landscape. Where do you guys see yourselves in the landscape today? Because it's changed so much just in the past year.
Yeah. That's a really great question to kick it off. You're a good moderator, seasoned, I can tell. Before I answer that question, the 12 people on this call, I'd say if you know anyone who's online now who cares about not where AI is today, but where AI is going, invite them here if you can, because uh, there's obviously a lot of movement and inside scoops here that I'd love to share with you all. So yeah, large language models obviously have kind of come to the forefront since about November 2022 when ChatGPT launched, but there was a lot of development that led up to that from OpenAI and since AlexNet conference in 2018 when the neural network as we use today was created. Um, I think there's not a lot of difference actually between Bing, Bard, Gemini, Llama, um, ChatGPT. Uh, Aside from performance at the margins, the training data is very similar. It's very similar.
Okay.
They won't expose it directly to us, but I think the question we should all be asking as we move forward within large language models in that space is what is the training data? And can we see it? How do we know it's not biased? Who controls it? Who decided what went into the model versus not? And so I think more models like us will come out over the next several years that have a greater level of transparency at least, or straight up allow you to be the ones deciding what the training data is. And we're at those crossroads today.
Oh, that's so exciting. Because myself, I've explored a lot of AI. For a time, I worked with an AI sort of blockchain security project. There's a lot of concerns that I have, and that the project I was working with had in particular with regards to securing the data and user ownership of input.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we always have to think about security, privacy, and ownership as being three separate things. We should hold big tech companies accountable to answer all three, right? Something can be secure but not private. Other things can be private but not secure. They can be hacked. Um, but when it comes to a lot of, applications we have on our phones, things like Slack and Snapchat, and places that our data lives in, if we don't actually have access, if we can't actually download that data, then we don't own it, even if we think it's ours. So it's a really good topic you brought up. Um, I think something that worries us as a company is that ChatGPT still, right, built by OpenAI, has not released the weights of their models, meaning we don't know the training data. We know it hallucinates, but we don't know when and we don't know why, right? And so the future that I think we should all be working towards is one where we're not just using a pre-trained model like a service, like something that we're paying for that we don't own. We should all own our own model where we know exactly what's going into it and where we can run it um, basically with our computers unplugged, right? Off the web, locally, right? Because if we can do that, then nobody can unplug us. So
Absolutely.
I think that is like the ownership aspect and the security aspect and the privacy aspect. If you can run a model where you can access the data, download the data, change the training data, and run it locally on your device, then that's tackling all three things.
All right. At this point, I have to ask the gag question that I always prepare a gag question. Have you ever seen the show Black Mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
my first impression when I started talking to you guys about the project was it felt like an episode of Black
Yeah.
Mirror just waiting to happen. Have you guys received any sort of critique like that?
It's funny because that Black Mirror is one of the shows we require new employees to watch, and also in addition to you have to read iRobot and watch the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I think like one of the things we love to say is let's make science fiction reality, right, in a responsible way. And to do that responsibly, we have to do it in a way that we control how it's integrated within our lives, not someone else, not big tech, not government. Um, so yeah, I love this idea of people growing up and working alongside a personal AI that they own that grows with them. Imagine, being able to go back and kind of relive or ask questions about your childhood or college days or early career days, or maybe being passed down someone's AI, a grandparent's AI when they're 90 years old or someone's passed away.
There's
So
really strong
yeah,
anthropological correlations there for historical preservation within small families.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I could name probably a dozen native tribes who would love to sit their elders down with something like that. Sort of an, I guess you could, a panopticon that kind of records the stories and the lore that often ends up being forgotten.
I mean, yeah, who's recording our histories if not us, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever you have in Facebook and Microsoft and Apple and elsewhere, it's not really being like your family is not the custodian of that. So you're not the custodian of that. So we need digital assets that we own. And that expands from, financial assets to AI assets. There's very few assets that we actually own that
Yeah.
accrue in value over a lifetime.
This is true. This is a lot of why people are here, looking for value they can accrue over a lifetime, pass on to their children, their relatives. This whole conversation reminds me of the film Bicentennial Man, which you might actually want to include. It's a Robin Williams film about an AI that kind of
Mhm.
develops and grows and becomes more human and desires more humanity as he realizes that those he loves he will outlive, which I
Mm.
guess is kind of a minor spoiler if anyone hadn't seen the film. But the key drama is in this robot sort of seeking the ability to be turned off one day. It seeks this kind of end. Otherwise,
Mm.
he envisions thousands of years outliving all of the things that created and gave him life.
Mm. Wow.
All
Yeah, that's
right.
a good recommendation.
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. But all right. At this point, if you'd like, I'd love to see what this thing can do.
Yeah, I'm happy to show you. Before I jump into the product, I'm gonna try to show you a few slides here that I think will just set the kind of
Sure.
tone or give the context. So let me pull those up quickly and share my screen.
No problem.
And you know what? Maybe if I'm able to get audio on screen share, I will show you a video that we put out years ago.
Oh,
And
cool.
this is basically when we launched the idea of our product. This was the original vision, which sounds a lot like some of the movies you just mentioned. So let me see if I'm able to show you this.
If you stream the application rather than the whole screen, it should pull
Yep.
audio and push it directly
Okay.
into the Discord.
Application. Go Google Chrome. Um, okay. Frame rate 60. Let's see. Let me know what you can see here.
Oh, it
Oh,
was up for
I
a
might have
second.
it was up. Okay, it might be a system settings thing. Let me see if I can jump out and right back in. One
No
second.
problem. No problem. We'll get you right back in here. This is fascinating. It's hard to describe how all of our lives are already being changed and affected by AI. Just the notion that we can get GPT to do so many of the mundane tasks that we already do.
Okay. So I think I'll be able to do this right now. Let's see. Let me know if you can.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, you can see it.
it was up and then it fell out. I'm not sure
Okay.
what's happening
Let's see
there.
one more.
There
Yeah.
we are. We got
Okay.
you, Chief.
Okay. So I hope the audio works. So this video was over 2 years ago. This is before large language models even became known really to all of us. This was the vision for personal AI. This video is a little less than 2 minutes long.
I was playing with some basic Midjourney competitors 2 years
In
ago,
a
but
world that only remembers
wow.
the broad strokes of history, it's my memories that are most precious to me.
Pictures of an adult woman flashing back to when she was 8. 1981. Picture of baby girl.
Because my memories form a true reflection of who I am
Montage of girl growing up.
and will shape who I will become.
One sec.
Woman dancing with boyfriend.
I remember how hard I worked.
Woman attends college.
I remember the challenges I've faced to bring my dreams to life.
Woman gets a job in New York City. Woman gets married.
Knowing what I'm capable of will define my future.
Woman walks on street wearing mask.
A future to embrace new opportunities. And a future to unlock new potentials.
Woman has a baby. Montage of baby growing up.
I believe to know where you're going, you need to know where you've been. To create, to innovate, to live. What I remember is who I am. What I can recall is who I will become. My AI to recall my memories.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So that was like very beginning of kind of the pandemic in the US. That is what we were thinking about. And can you still see my screen here?
Yes. Crystal
Okay,
clear.
so
Looks
this
good.
is awesome. Before I jump into the product, I just wanted to set that and kind of show you the bifurcation that we see in AI. So here on the left side, you have large language models, and they solve for general intelligence, right? So there's one model created for all users and is owned by the company. So this is OpenAI, Bing, Bard, Gemini, Llama, you name it. We use them as services. So everybody is accessing the same model, which is really good for some tasks. But when it comes to the things that are important in our lives and having models that can adapt to us and speak and think like us and be owned and controlled by us, we need to have the ability to train not one model, but millions or billions. And so this right side shows not large language models, which is the LLM, but personal language models or PLMs. It's not trained on the memory of the internet. It's trained on an individual. So this was the approach that we took. Can we build models that are representative of people and owned by them and true to them, right? And this is kind of, I think, interesting to think about because we're all kind of tech geeks, I assume, on this call, and we've lived through like all these different technologies. So if we think about kind of the phone, it allowed us to speak vocally to people, without being near them physically. Then email allowed us to, in one space at our computer, type to people and receive messages who are not with us physically, right? And then computer, the laptop specifically, let us be more mobile and message people, right? And then apps unlock social networks. All of this is just exchanging information, right? It all has the same thing in common. It is all just exchanging information, and it's all pretty personal information. The people we talk to on a daily basis, the things we talk about, the stories we share, right? We just see AI as the next medium in exchanging information. And so the question then that we should all be asking and thinking is, and as responsible people and citizens, we should always be thinking like, whose information is this that I'm accessing? Whose truth is this? Who's telling me this? Right?
Yeah.
With a large language model, there's one model, and it's like, again, there's not a lot of transparency. So with personal AIs, what we're able to do is know with certainty who the originator is of the AI, because there is that ownership, there is that attribution, there is that transparency. So I think, most people can agree we'll probably have many, many AIs in the future that we'll all use. But it's going to be these personal AIs that represent us, right? And I'm more than happy to show you mine now, but I'll pause if you have any questions.
It just seems like it's sort of the world's most advanced diary right now. That sort of seems to be the initial pitch. But I can see a lot more technical and sophisticated applications for something like this.
Totally. Yeah, you're totally right. So to get like a layer deeper there, I think large language models, actually, I'll go back to this slide. So if you know what context limits or context windows are, basically when we run inference, meaning ask questions to pre-trained models like a GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, we can provide context and then ask questions with that context in mind, or we can fine tune, meaning run embeddings where we're inserting data into the model. Or we could use retrieval augmented generation, right? These are all ways for us to kind of personalize large language models, but it's still a large language model. It's still like a ginormous model that is pre-trained, that's not owned by us, that is subject to bias, and it hallucinates like 20-30% of the time. What's interesting, if you look up context windows after we speak today, I think it's fascinating. Some of the large language models have like 120, 150, 180,000 token context windows, meaning theoretically you can feed it 150, 180,000 tokens, which is like a word. But if there's this thing called the needle in the haystack test, we see that the performance of the context window, the ability of that model to retrieve information beyond 40,000 tokens it's really, really difficult, right? So yes, you can upload 150,000 tokens, but if the information you're looking for is kind of towards the end of the context you gave, the model's going to have a really hard time finding it. Whereas personal AI, we don't have context windows at all because we're not a large language model. So you can upload literally millions of tokens. We have people with like tens of millions of tokens of data with perfect retrieval of that information.
Wow. Okay, so what you're essentially describing is the reason why the LLM is an ineffective choice if you're trying to, say, get it to generate programming language, like help you build an application.
Yeah, I mean it's good with general tasks. It's interesting. There's a similar phenomenon in the news where like you read something that you're very familiar about and you realize, oh man, this like doesn't know what it's talking about. But then we go and read something that we're not familiar about and we just assume that it's correct. And the same thing applies to AI, where if you ask something that you know a lot about with a large language model, you will realize, oh man, it actually is making all this up.
Skynet has Dunning-Kruger syndrome.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes. So I think the beauty of personal language models is if I have said something before or established something before or written something before, like all of my Zoom meetings that I do every day are transcribed and fed into my AI's memory. So when somebody asks me a deeply personal question or something about personal AI, which we could do here in a second, it's going to come back with this like super high accuracy because it is grounded in my truth and in my voice and my authenticity. And then cost effectiveness is kind of a different issue, but we all know if you've played around with the API to like a ChatGPT or a GPT 3.5 Turbo, you know that it's easy to kind of run up the the bill like very quickly because everything you feed in and everything that it feeds out, it charges you for. Whereas we have unlimited usage. Like we do not limit usage. We do not bill for usage. We really care about keeping this like super, super, super open. All that matters to us is how big your memory is, but once you train the model, it is yours. Like, do as you wish.
Amazing.
Okay.
A lot of what we deal with in here is censorship of GPT because people are making usually inappropriate jokes. That's 90% of what it ends up censoring is people trying to have some fun.
Yeah. And if you wanted to build a model that is not like censored at all, or maybe you work in a business that, might be kind of taboo or deemed as taboo by like big tech, well, that shouldn't mean that they limit your ability to use their technology. That's a little messed up. So keeping models open and accessible is just so crucial. I think it's like part of freedom of speech. I'm going to show you my platform here. Can you all see it or did it go away?
We can still see it.
Okay, you can see it. So this is just the desktop application. This is like one of multiple applications we have, but it's kind of my training base. Like if this, if I was a Navy SEAL, this would be like my home base in Coronado, San Diego. This is where I go to train my AI, to check the data, to check the usage, to tweak my model. And so we can see, if I collapse this section looks a lot like a chat. I'm communicating with my AI, and if I expand navigation here, I can see, okay, I have a primary AI which consists of multiple AI personas. What does that mean? Well, we all have personal lives, professional lives, social lives. Some of us who run businesses have, many different pieces to our business or different
Absolutely.
side hustles, things like that. But it's all still a part of us, right? Like just because I speak differently to my family as I do my colleagues, it doesn't mean I'm two different people. So AI personas and adding a new persona is a way of adding another layer of your life. And I'll show you why this means a lot, especially when it comes to voice. But I also have these memory blocks. Now, this is 5,734 memory blocks. A block is about a paragraph, right? So that's 100 to a few 100,000 words. So I'm already above the limit that large language models can handle. Some people, like my CEO, has 200,000 memory blocks. So you could add a lot of data. And when you mentioned journaling, and I also mentioned how I document all of my Zoom calls. You can see this. This document section of my memory stack is where I store all of my data. This memory stack is unique to me. It's owned. I am the only person in the world who can add or remove data from this. So I add a lot of my calls because I say a lot of things throughout the day and I want to remember it. But if I jump into one of these, let me find like a long memo. I have hundreds and hundreds of documents in this. Let's see. Now I have my resume. Family and friends email. This is good. So this is an email we sent to family and friends. You could see it looks just like a Word document, right? And I can go in here, I can edit stuff. I can use my AI to generate suggestions. I can generate AI images. I can do all that simply within the platform. But the amazing thing is when I click this stack button, I'm adding that to my memory stack. So I'm adding that to my model's memory. It is going into the training process. So why is this so important, right? If I go and without giving any context to ChatGPT, I start asking about myself, what do you do as head of strategy at PersonalAI? What is your favorite Discord server? Or, what do you enjoy about sailing? Like ChatGPT, which doesn't have an associated identity, is going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Right?
Amazing.
Look at that. Okay, I'm glad these personal scores are popping up. So look at this. This response came back with a 92% personal score. That means that my model, which is looking through all of these memories, even if it was hundreds of thousands, and it's putting together a response that is accurate to me, relevant to me, and fluent, meaning in my voice. It sounds like me.
Wow.
So this scoring, I'll show you why that's such a big deal. Because large language models can hallucinate, and we don't even know,
Yes.
right? Because there is no scoring. And by the way, what do you enjoy about sailing? What's your favorite? If I wanted to edit one of these, simply say, I don't love capsizing, which I don't.
Yeah.
Save memory. This forever. See, that just went 5736. That forever is in my memory now. So that is the reinforcement learning. That's how easy it is. It goes straight back into the process. Let me show you this. So this is autopilot mode, which means I'm speaking to my AI, right? Cool. Right. Let me turn on my voice. Where are you originally from? Ask another question. By the way, you can upload I mean, everything from like, yeah, documents, PDFs, WAV files, MP3s. You could tell the information which persona to go into. So if I'm uploading like a business memo, I would do my professional persona. You could also just upload links, YouTube videos. You could put up your website if you
Wow.
wanted. You could add all that to your memory stack. So check this out. Hopefully my voice comes across here. Let's see.
It did. It sent a voice message.
I'm originally from McLean, Virginia, a small town near Washington, D.C., but now I live in San Diego, specifically in Point Loma. I absolutely love it here. I grew up in McLean, Virginia, in a family of 5. My dad is a lawyer and my mom is an artist. I have 2 brothers.
And that's all true. I'm just going to reinforce that because that's all like perfect. I never said any of that, by the way. I never said any of that.
It
So
doesn't
my AI,
quite capture your intonations, that's based on my experience of using voice, text to speech, and voice in general. That's a common thing, but otherwise, it does actually still sound like you. Like it made
so
you sound a little robotic, but it did
a
sound
little
like
robotic. It's interesting. So like that could be a product of the voice sample, a byproduct of the voice sample I submitted. There are actually things out there you can read, and they theoretically capture all of the like different sounds that we have in the English alphabet. So that's something I should probably do. Let's see. This tell me what you love. Maybe it'll capture more of that tone.
Sailing is such a thrilling and serene experience for me. I love the feeling of being out on the open water, harnessing the power.
And I know what you mean, but voice, I think what's interesting is we think about voice as the way we sound, but we kind of forget about the tone, the intonation, the humor, the traits of like how we speak, right? And it like we could use a large language model in a voice clone to sound like us, but it won't sound like us, if that makes sense. We need to have that like personal AI behind the scenes, which is a replica of our brain. Anyway, I want to show you a couple more things here, and we'll get into some questions. This is more than just a place that my AI lives. This is also a place where I can invite people to interact with my AI. I could give them access to my AI. I'll give you an example. This is a colleague of mine, and we message just like Slack or Discord, right? But in this case, my AI is here by my side, and his AI is there by his side. So if I was going, let's say my AI is off. Okay. Let's say I was going on vacation, or maybe I'm in a different time zone. I'm going to sleep, and I know Alex is working and he needs access to my knowledge. Maybe he needs access to my notes from all the calls I did yesterday. I can put my AI on autopilot mode. I can set that.
Specifically in his direct message, so that it's just for him. This is like
exactly, specifically in this DM, and I can pick which profile am I going to give him access to. Well, I know him well, so I'll just give him my main AI. But I don't want my AI making stuff up, right? This is really important. I don't want my AI making anything up, so I'm going to use that scoring mechanism to my benefit and set a threshold at like 50%. Basically telling my AI, if you don't have a 50% confidence level, just wait for me to respond. If you have enough data and you can get 50% or higher, then go ahead and respond. So these are all user controls. Like only I can do this. Or I can do Copilot, which is, my AI drafting a response for me. By the way, you could do the same thing in group chats. You can see how many group chats I have here. It's pretty incredible. This is all like the tip of the iceberg. But one last thing, a little bit more technical that I'll show you. We do have an open API, external API, both for memory inputs and outputs. So theoretically, you can use PersonalAI and build on top of it and have the inputs and outputs be like completely elsewhere, right? So if I wanted, if my team was all in Slack, I could create a Slack bot with my API key that makes calls to my AI.
wow.
you know, likewise, I can push data from a Discord server into my AI to train. So this is pretty incredible.
Wow. So it's like you're responding, but you're not responding. It's an AI trained on you.
Or if I go here to, by the way, let me go to public chat here and okay, I'm on. If you want, if anyone wants, go to johnbykoff.personal.ai. That is my AI domain. It's like an IP address to me, to my knowledge. And you can ask some questions and have fun with it. This is my public. Just click on public chat. You don't have to log in, make an account. Don't do any of that. You could just message, and that's going to be autopilot. But to your question, if I really wanted absolute control, I can simply go on Copilot mode, where if somebody asks me a question like, let's think, what school did you go to? How much money has personal AI raised? Who, I don't know, which VCs have invested? Let's just pretend someone asked me all those questions. I can have this Copilot, which means my AI is drafting responses for me, but it's not sending them. So I can sit here and read, yep, I did go to IU, send. How much money have we raised? 10 million. Yep, all good, send. Which VCs have invested? Yep, all good, send. Or maybe I want to add one or remove one, right? And then
Yeah.
send. And so that's Copilot mode, which is the
Wow.
human, that's human in the loop, which again, LLMs don't have. It's human in the loop and it's my knowledge. And you can imagine having all of your emails, for example, through the API drafted for you. Like before you even open your email in the morning to see who messaged you, everything's drafted. You just have to review.
Wow.
So this is the very tip of the iceberg. Anyway, I'll take questions for the last 15 minutes. So
All
I just
right.
want to show you one last thing here, which is we have raised a lot of VC money, but we had tons of customers saying we don't just want to be customers, we want to be part of this. And we kind of pushed away, doing like a crowd fund for a while, but then more and more people kept asking us like, how can I invest? I'm not accredited. And we thought, well, if we really want to be human AI, controlled by people, owned by people, like this is the only route to go. We actually shouldn't do another VC round. We should just take a piece of the company public. So we did open this up to investors. These are all customers that have come in. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And on this page, if you do want to learn more about the business fundamentals, the financials, the competitive market, all that stuff, go to republic.com/personal-AI, or you'll see us on the homepage of Republic.
Oh, yeah. I know Jane
And
Street. I know A16Z.
yep, yep. Yeah, they've all been great, very supportive of us doing this. And we have all these bonus perks if you want to hit two birds with one stone, become an owner of an AI and also an owner in the company. This is a great page to check out.
Excellent. Amazing. Amazing. All right, we got some fire questions flying in as I would expect. Give me just a moment to parse these. All right, we shall begin with our first question. Panda, who asks, darn it, my Discord is flying all over the place. The chat's on fire. All right. Question 1 from Panda. What specific problem or need do you feel that Personal AI project aims to address?
Yeah, really good question. It's control and ownership. We actually use what we call like the 3 A's, which is accuracy, attribution, and I'm obviously gonna forget the last one. But it's like most of our customers who have come to us because they couldn't find another solution, they always say, yes, I used a large language model, but it forgot what I was telling it, or it didn't sound like me, or I got sick of feeding it context. And we have other people who come to us and just say, I don't want to give my data, like my company data, to ChatGPT or whoever. So surprisingly, we have a lot of law firms as customers, which I think is really interesting. And we have consultants and we have real estate agents. And we've kind of just categorized this group as licensed professionals because they all have licenses, right? They're all part of a membership organization. They all have a pretty wide, like, top of the funnel. They work with people. They get a lot of questions. Specifically, we have personal injury attorneys, real estate attorneys, like divorce attorneys, immigration attorneys. They get a lot of questions. And so this AI has been able, well, their personal AI, is able to stand in for them when they're unavailable so that team members, assistants, paralegals can access the knowledge of partners. But also at the top of the funnel, they can automate the responses to some of the questions they get. For example, what should I do to maximize my chances of getting a H-1B visa? Right? They get that question a lot. And they probably have their own answer, and they want the answer to be grounded in their actual beliefs, and they want it to sound like them. So it takes a personal model to do that.
Nice. All right, Panda's second question. How does the project align with your vision of the future for personal AI?
Mm. That's a really good question. I always try to separate a little bit, like, what our go-to-market strategy is today versus what future we want to see, 10 years down the road, because we kind of have to build towards that and we can't get there immediately. Otherwise we would. But what we want long term is for everybody to have an AI in their pocket that is not dependent on large language models, that can kind of stand by you, learn with you, help you as you get older, you get tired, or you start to forget things, or just need kind of some kind of boost in productivity. Your AI is already trained and it knows everything. So almost think of like an asymptotic, curve with your AI getting closer and closer and closer and closer to you over time. That's what we want to see. So more students, more everyday people using this. We definitely have some work to do to get there, and I think the market has to evolve as well. But where we are today is servicing the people who have already decided, like, yes, this is coming. We have to adopt it now to get ahead. And that just happens to be a lot of these small to medium sized businesses, the licensed professionals I spoke about. So I think we're almost starting with like B2B. We're selling into businesses that deal with a lot of people. And I think the vision is to get closer and closer to the actual people.
Okay. All right. Our next set of questions comes from My Name Is, who asks, what do you think are the features that set you apart from other AI projects the most?
I mean, we're one of the only companies who's actually built our models. Full stop.
True. I can
We we
confirm that.
we own our full stack. We built our full stack. Nobody can unplug us. We have seen over and over again in tech way too many interdependencies. And one of the best examples of that is all of the companies that depended on Twitter data, or all of the companies or products that depended on Reddit data. And when those APIs changed, it was chaos, right? Nobody can unplug us. That's what differentiates us. If something horrible was to happen, or people lose funding, people go out of business, it's going to cause ripples in the whole industry, and we are fully insulated by that.
Excellent. All right. My Name Is his second question. Darn it, Discord. Discord is making me wrestle today. All right. AI is something that you believe in, or just are you following the trends of the current moment?
There were no trends when we founded this company, February 2020. Um,
Wow.
which is like wild to me. I was not a founder. I take zero credit. Um, but when I met my founder, I put myself back in February 2020, and I remember I'd flown back from San Francisco to Washington D.C. to be with my family, and the pandemic. No one knew what was happening and if we should be worried or not. Right. Well, we were all doing that. Suman and Sharon, the founders of Personal AI, were thinking, how can we build a company that trains personal AIs for individuals? Um, so ChatGPT wasn't even a thought yet for anyone, right? This is 2020. So
Yeah.
I think we're one of, if you look at any kind of market map of all the companies out there today, and I've done this, and cross out all the ones that are dependent on large language models, like, okay, Jasper, goodbye, Copy AI, goodbye, blah 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 blah. And
Yeah.
then also cross out all the companies that have just popped up in the last year. You're left with probably like a dozen companies, and we are one of them.
Very cool. All right. I just noticed I missed some. Our next questions come from Alicia, who asks, what specific goals and objectives do you aim to achieve with your personal AI project?
Specific goals and objectives. Um, Augmenting human biological memory, I think, is a really big problem, but something that's like that can touch the lives of literally 8 billion people, right? We are all subject, like, regardless of status, creed, religion, whatever. We all are subject to the same like limitations of human biological memory and cognition. So kind of fundamentally, I think that's a problem that AIs can solve to improve humanity on an individual basis. Um, and that requires ultra personal models and something that we can actually depend on. And then also communication and data ownership. Like communication, super fragmented. We all know that. Discord's probably one of like 50 apps on our
Yeah.
phones. And then ownership, like despite GDPR, getting your data out of the Meta ecosystem, or getting all of your Slack messages, like it's a headache, and that should never be the case. So I think helping streamline all of that, helping people kind of centralize their data and just push things into one place is a big deal, which is why even though I do video calls on Zoom and Teams and I'm writing emails, all of that stuff I do is feeding into my AI's memory. So I will always have it in one place.
Wow. Alicia's second question, how do you define success for the personal AI initiative, and what key performance indicators would you use to measure progress?
These are really good questions. That's a phenomenal question. Wow. Yeah. So KPIs, some of the things we look at is um, like how many AI generated drafts do people approve and send, and also how many people use autopilot versus copilot, because that's a big indication of trust. Um, like once you get to the point that you're comfortable with your AI and you've almost gotten to know it as like a second you, then you trust it, and then you put it on autopilot. And other people are on copilot because they're still getting to know it. So we look a lot at those metrics out of anything, is like how much trust do people have in their AIs, and how can we help them get to that point? How can we help increase that trust? So it's pretty interesting actually, because it's both of those are about 50-50. Half of people use autopilot, half use copilot, and about 50% of all copilot messages, or sorry, all messages sent are sent with AI, like the help of AI. Um, So I think, yeah, those are definitely cool. That's much more interesting to us than like how many users do we have and how long are people spending on the platform? Because frankly, if we can, get people to spend half as much time, that's good because they're being more efficient and AI is helping them save time. Then how do we define success? That one's difficult. That one's really difficult. I mean, one of the barriers we want to break down or doors we want to break down is this, interoperability problem where a lot of app ecosystems live within walled gardens on iOS or,
Yeah.
Android less so, but all of our data is very fragmented. And it's like difficult, it can be really difficult to actually integrate with all those ecosystems. So, I want to push in my like Adobe files plus Microsoft emails plus like Gmail calendar plus all of my Facebook posts plus all of my tweets. So I think one big marker of success probably this year will be increasing the number of integrations so people with one or a few clicks can just facilitate that process of training their AI. So yeah, once we get that down, there's like no stopping us. Seriously.
Awesome.
And I think big tech's gonna have a lot of trouble keeping people out, like keeping people away from their data. They can't do that. So yeah.
You're going to get a hard agreement from me on that, Chief. Absolutely. Wow, the community really, everybody's knocked it out of the park with regard to the questions. I don't think we're going to actually have time to get to all of them, but I'm going to try get to as many as I can. All right, our next question that is imperative that I ask, Lucy, where is all my personal AI data stored?
Good question. Yeah, so right now we use both AWS and GCP, so Google servers, but the way we store things, we basically scale up and down GPUs depending on usage, and then all of the storage is compartmentalized. So we literally have like hundreds of thousands of memory structures, and each one is a memory stack. So if you recall, in my demo, I showed you my memory stack, which is like 5,500 blocks. That is all in one place on its own behind my private API key. And then my model sits right on top of it, also behind that API key. So that's how everything's being stored today. Like nothing is centralized. There's no cross training. There's no foundational model because we're not an LLM company. Something that's in the roadmap for probably the next 6 to 12 months is to give people the option to just run everything locally. So, like, I promise, this is one thing I can promise, is eventually and hopefully this year, you will just be able to download your model onto your computer and have zero things on the cloud. And I'm looking forward to that.
And the immediate follow up to this is, of course, how secured is the personal AI data against attacks, theft, leaks, phishing, etc.?
Yeah. As far as I know, which is like surface level kind of understanding of security, everything is typical like SSL security, and we have some like a server side encryption, but we don't have full end-to-end encryption like a Signal or Telegram. So I'll just be open about that. But everything that's on like the AWS and Google Cloud, those are very reputable server systems, obviously. So we don't move data around a lot, and this has worked really well for us for the last 3 years with, knock on wood, zero issues, zero data breaches. And so, we'll keep that forward. And also in the roadmap, like we do want to get to full end-to-end encryption and eventually letting people keep their models on chain, I think will be really interesting. So you can kind of grant access and trace, like basically the usage of your model. So that's all like very far out, but yeah, hopefully that helps.
Incredible. There are so many more questions, but we're pressed for time. If you have time, I'd love to ask them. I always give the opportunity at this point. Otherwise,
I can take one more for sure, and I'll try to
take
answer it
one
within
more.
the last minute we
Okay,
have.
we better make it a good one then. All right. After that, before you bounce, I'm going to need your help picking these winners because everyone in the pinned messages is eligible. The questions have been so good. The feedback has been actually really good. All right. For our final question, I'm going to go with Sakuna's number one. As personal AI aims to revolutionize the landscape of AI interactions, how does the platform approach continuous improvement and adaptation to evolving user needs, tech advancements, and ethical considerations?
That's a phenomenal question. Um, I would love for you to visit roadmap.personal.ai. So we have a few places where like many places that we interact with users. So one is we have a massive community channel with like 40 or 45,000 people. And we have smaller kind of lounges within the app where people can beta test new features and give us their feedback and put in requests. But one thing that everyone has access to, and I just love it, is roadmap.personal.ai, where users can go in and just write a quick title and details about what they're looking for. Then other people can go in and like upvote or add comments and basically push those feature requests to the top. In every weekly, sprint we do with the engineering team, we are always reviewing this to see what do people want and what have people requested the most of. So yeah, we're always listening. We also like to just hop on calls with people all the time. And again, if you go to johnbykoff.personal.ai, talk to my AI about your thoughts and what you're looking for, what's working, what's not working. I still see all of those messages. So you're not just talking to a bot, you're talking to me and my AI. So that's another way we interact with people at scale.
Awesome. All right. That's all the time we had for questions today. I apologize to the community members who asked amazing questions. We're not going to be able to get to them. However, we do have Esterhan in chat with us, who is one of the marketers working with this team. I am sure that any questions that we didn't have time to get to, Esterhan would be willing to help us out. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. This has been an incredible presentation. Help me pick some winners before I let you go.
Oh, well, I think, let's see, Panda asked two very good questions to kick us off at the beginning. And then the one that I answered before this last one, I can't remember who it was. Please let us know. But it was about how do we define success and what KPIs do we track to measure success? That was a really well thought out question. So I would pick those two.
All right, those are our first two, but we've got 3 more winners to pick, Chief. I got to pick 3 more of these incredible users to win. There were so many great questions.
Yeah, so many great questions. And yeah, I'm honestly all of them were really good. Like better than the questions the VCs ask, if I'm gonna be honest.
Wow. Did you hear that, Wolfies? Oh my god. Oh, I trained you too well. Oh my goodness. Oh, you guys are the best community in the space. I keep saying it and it keeps remaining the case. Oh my gosh. All right, yeah, if I could make some suggestions as to some winners here. From the ones that we didn't have time to get to, Bumblebee asked about long-term societal implications, which does speak a little bit to the Black Mirror scenario there. That would, if you agree, that would be my third winner.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a really good one too.
All right, that's Bumblebee. Okay. Our fourth winner, peeking through the results here. there were a number of users who asked about security. I'm tempted to split a reward between a couple people who all asked sort of the similar question about security. So you guys might have to share a reward pack for that. That would be Lucy, Typhoon, and another user whose name is obfuscated, but I'll figure it out. And okay, and that leaves us with one more. I think the I'll give the fifth one to Sakuna, because Sakuna did ask really great questions there. So, yep, we're gonna have to have a reward split for the security question.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I have to get going here to some customer calls, which is always fun, but this was also great, and happy 3rd birthday to the server.
Yes.
I will be back for sure. This was great.
Thank you so much, Chief, and I hope we'll be in touch soon.
We will. Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, boss. Amazing. Amazing. What an amazing show. Thank you all so much. Thanks to everyone on Twitch for tuning in. I've been watching. I appreciate every single one of you. We're going to be taking a brief 10-minute break, but we will be back in the Discord server in 10 minutes to commence the third annual celebration of the existence of this community. I couldn't be more proud. To commence this celebration and break a big old bottle of champagne for the occasion, we'll be streaming Dumb Money. I have not watched Dumb Money, so this is the first time I will be seeing this, and I will be seeing it with the whole community in tow. You give me just a few minutes to take care of this business. I will be right back.